In this video, we want to look at some kind of simple graphing that we'd work with on polar coordinates, okay? So the first one just says theta is equal to negative pi over 6. Well, that just means we know what the angle is. It's always negative pi over 6. So I'm going to graph this in red. So negative pi over 6 means we go down pi over 6. This is the angle. And all it would be is just this line. Positive and negative, because of course it could be a negative r value. Okay. The next one is r equals 3. And this one, a lot of times people kind of get the fact that, okay, if the radius is always 3, then wouldn't that just be a circle? It absolutely would. And I'm sorry that I can't even trace this into a perfect circle, but you will get the idea that that is r equals 3. And finally, the hard one here, 4 equals r sine theta. And you look and you say, geez, I don't know how I would do that one. Well, remember, this is y. So this is no different than saying y equals 4, which is a horizontal line. So how would you get a vertical line? Well, you'd graph 4 equals r cosine theta. Okay? Now, let's look at some really cool graphing. We're going to try and graph. I'm going to just do 3 cosine theta to start with. And here's how I would handle these. I would make a table of angles, and then we're going to kind of plot the points as we go. And again, deal with the points you know. There's no point in trying to come up with pi over 12 or something like that. Use pi over 6, pi over 4, that kind of thing. So we're going to pick some thetas. And our r, remember, is 3 cosine theta, like that. So let's say that theta is, let's start with 0. Well, the cosine of 0 is 1, so r would be 3. So we start at an angle of 0 and an r of 3. That means it's right there. Okay, let's go to the next one we know, which would be pi over 6. Well, cosine of pi over 6 is square root of 3 over 2. Okay? So we've got 3 multiplied by square root of 3 over 2, which if you type it in is about 2.6. It's 2.598. So out along the pi over 6 line right here, I'm going to go 1, 2, just over 2.5 units out. So right in here. Let's go to pi over 4. Cosine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. So it's going to be 3 times root 2 over 2. Okay, so again, we type that in. And we get 2.12, so about just over 2. So now we're right in here. Okay. Now I'm going to skip, well, now let me do pi over 3. Because the cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. So this would just be 3/2. So 1.5. It's right in here. Okay. Next we would do pi over 2. Well, the cosine of pi over 2 is 0. So up along that 0, it has no r, so it's just like that. So here's what we've got. Now if you continued this, okay, what would happen is it would just come back around, and it actually is a circle centered at about 1.5, or centered at 1.5, like that. Okay? That's it. The weird thing about this is it only takes from 0 to pi to finish, and if you continue, then it would just retrace itself. Okay? Let's do 4 cosine 2 theta on the next slide. Okay, so again, we're going to have theta. R equals 4 cosine 2 theta. And again, I would just pick some spots here that would be easy. 0. Cosine is, okay, so cosine of 0 is 0. So, or I'm sorry, it's 1, so it's like this. So 4 units out. Okay. Then maybe pick pi over 6, because 2 times pi over 6 is pi over 3. Cosine pi over 3 is 1/2, so this would be 2. So it would be like this. If I picked pi over 4, the cosine of, well, 2 times pi over 4 is pi over 2. Cosine of pi over 2 is 0, so this is 0. Yeah. Let's go to pi over 2. Okay. 2 times pi over 2 is pi. Cosine of pi is -1, so 4 times -1 is -4. So that's down here. So here's what's happening. It's coming like this. And then it's going to go back up like this. Now, I have been doing this a long time, so I know what these shapes are, and I can see these patterns pretty quickly. You will not be able to. You'll have to continue to kind of fill them out. And, you know, your drawing will then be better than mine. But that is the basic idea. You plug in angles, and you kind of check yourself with your calculator, and you make sure that it actually comes out the way it's supposed to. But really, going from 0 to 2 pi, just picking some points you know should get you the basic shape. So that's how we graph polar coordinates. I mean, it really is just, you know, make a table of values and put them on the graph.